The shipyard breathes like an old animal. Metal ribs, salt rot, tarps flapping like torn lungs. You learn to hear moods in that breath. Tonight it's hungry. I move slow, boots whispering over frost-bitten planks, headlamp raking hollow hulls for anything worth the diesel it took to get here. Brass fittings, copper veins, a hydraulic pump if I'm lucky, errand money, rent money, stay alive money. Lake Erie is a hammered pewter sheet. The abandoned dry dock crouches at the waterline, a spine of warped beams and iron teeth, cranes frozen mid-gesture like they were caught praying. Every footfall on wood gets answered with a groan from underneath, as if I'm walking on a ribcage that remembers. Then I hear it. Knock, faint, not wind, not gull, human rhythm wrong and desperate. I kill the headlamp on reflex and listen, breath frosting in the air. The yard is a choir of faraway creaks and distant city hum, but underneath, there it is again. A rasp, a thin metallic cough like chain on chain, the kind that drags against your nerves instead of your ears. Hello? I keep my voice low. Don't announce, don't echo. Old muscle memory I never asked to keep. A whimper answers, then a whisper the ice almost steals. Please, I'm begging you. The sound comes from under the planks, down in the black slit running the length of the dock where boats used to rest their bellies. There's a maintenance ladder corroded to lace. My gloves crunch rust as I test it. Holds. I climb into stale cold, boots splashing in a film of oily water that kisses my ankles through cracked leather. The world becomes shapes, a forest of crusted bolts, algae-slimed concrete, a silver line of chain disappearing around a beam like a steel snake hugging prey. Smell of diesel ghosts and old blood someone tried to wipe with lake water. Then she lifts her head. She's curled against a support, arms pulled overhead by industrial links thick as my wrist, skin mottled with welding burns, lips edged in blue, steam drifts from her breath in thin threads. She looks like a ghost that never made it to the lake. She looks like a decision waiting to cost me. Don't, she says and sucks air like it hurts. Don't stare. I take off my jacket anyway, drop it over her shoulders, get hit with heat I don't expect. The fever kind that cooks organs. Her eyes track me. Fever bright, lucid, too sharp. I go for the chain first because it gives decision a shape. There's a padlock the size of a fist, bright new metal against old stains. I slide a pry bar into the hasp. My lamp stays off. My hands remember the dance of working blind. Metal grinds with a voice like bad news. Who did this? I ask. Question is a test. Can she even talk? They'll be back, she whispers. Please don't touch me. I stop because she flinches like the word hurts. I angle the lamp, a slice of light grazing her collarbone. That's when I freeze. Beneath the skin, a hair-thin line pulses, not a scar, not a vein. A filament, electric green humming like a heartbeat tied to a metronome. It runs shallow under her collar, then disappears toward her shoulder. I've seen bad medicine and worse wounds. I've never seen wiring that breathes. Something cold takes root in my chest. Instinct wants me backing up now, climbing the ladder, letting the lake's gray mouth seal over this moment. Instinct is an old friend. Instinct doesn't pay rent. On her wrist there's a band, matte black, beveled edges like a weapon disguised as jewelry. The surface eats the light, and inlaid along it are marks that don't line up with any alphabet I know. Not Cyrillic, not Arabic, not Assyrial. The band is fused to skin, not buckled, not clasped, grown in or burned on. The chain clinks as she tries to curl away. The motion flashes another detail. The burns on her arms aren't random. They're lines, grids, squares of skin shaved, treated, etched. Clean work, technical. Someone took something precise and then tried to make it look like chaos. If they catch you here, she says, voice shredded but steady. It won't matter that you didn't touch me. Who's they? I keep the bar wedged in the lock. Questions are feelers. Sometimes they come back with teeth. You don't want to know. I do. I don't. My hands keep working because action is a religion I still practice. I set my boot against the beam, twist with everything left in my shoulders. The lock bites, groans, laughs at me. Hold still, I say. You can't do this. No pleading now, just a flattened tone that sounds like an order someone gave too many times. You can't afford me. I almost snort. I don't sell people. That buys one beat of quiet. In that beat, the lock slips enough to let me jam the bar deeper. I pull. Metal screams. Somewhere above, a gull answers like it understands. Clang. The shackle gives. She slumps and the chain rains down, cold links ringing on concrete. For a second, the only sound is her trying to breathe like she needs to relearn how. I drop, catch her weight. She's smaller than she looks, but dense, heat and bone and a tremor running through every inch. Don't look, she says again, voice shrinking. Please. Too late. The filament under her skin strobes faster now, sinking with panic. I can't stop noticing how it threads into the base of her throat, how the wristband hums a note I feel in my teeth. From the corner, something ticks. My old radiation pen clipped to my belt since a hospital scrapyard job. A talisman I kept out of habit and jokes. It chirps once, twice. There's no source, no X-ray head, no cracked isotope case, just her. Okay, I hear myself say. No plan in the word, just a line I step across. The ankle chain fights harder. The link at the anchor is welded, a fast job, sloppy and recent. Whoever left her did it like Winter would finish their paperwork. I take a breath I try to make slow. Hands, bar, leverage. My shoulder yells in a voice that belongs to a younger man under a desert sun. That man is gone. It's just me, a pry bar, and a promise I might not survive. Why are you doing this? She asks, like the question is a diagnostic. Because you asked? Because somebody didn't? Because if I walk away, I walk back into a version of myself I buried with dog tags and bad sleep. Because it's wrong, I say. The weld pops like a gunshot. The chain spills open. She gasps, raw, animal, hooks something behind my sternum and pulls. When I lift her, the ID band catches my glove and heats like a wire under load. She jerks. The heat cuts. Instinct says drop. I hold on. Ethan, I say. First name. Simple. A handhold for both of us. I'm getting you out. Don't! Her head lolls against my shoulder. Fever brushes my cheek. Don't call me anything. But her mouth moves again and she gives me the word she's built to hide behind. Sky, she breathes, barely sound. Just sky. I file it away when I should leave it on the floor. Up the ladder, every rung is a judged angle. My boots slip once and she tightens, a reflex that says her body still wants to live even if her mind signed forms, surrendering the option. We reach the deck. The world opens into iron light. Wind knifes through us. Lake Erie's flat glare makes my eyes water. No vans, no footsteps, just gulls and gray and the yard's rust opera. That's the problem. Quiet like this isn't empty. It's loaded. It's the second before percussion. You shouldn't have touched me, Sky mutters, head buried in my jacket. If they find me here, they'll erase you with me. Let's make that hard. I wrap her tighter, angle us along the ribs of the dock where wind is loud enough to hide breath. My shipping container squats beyond the cranes between mountains of stripped prop housings and a busted forklift that's mostly duct tape and prayer. Diesel fumes trace a memory trail through the air. As I move, the radiation pen ticks again, 3 quick chirps. My mouth goes dry in a way no wind can cause. I don't look at the filament. I don't look at the band. I look at the path. Boards, ladders, A gap in the fence only I use. Decisions like footfalls, one after the other. This isn't a ransom, isn't an accident. This is an execution someone started and planned to finish after coffee. We clear the last stack of propellers, curved blades glooming like a frozen school of metal fish. The container's door is a scar with a padlock the size of my palm and a dent shaped like last winter's impatience. I set Sky against the wall, stomach clenching at the heat pouring off her. Her eyes film, then slice back to clarity like she's rebooting. "Listen," she says, "if they come—" "They?" I echo, because sometimes repeating a word makes people pour more out. "You mean cops? Corporate? Freelancers?" "Don't use those names," she says. Not a plea, a rule. They listen for them. The wind crawls colder across my neck. I cut the lock, shoulder the door. The container exhales diesel, solvent, cold metal. My world in rectangles. Workbench, coil of copper, drawer of scavenged bolts, water can, dented kettle, cot with a thermal blanket washed until its corners fray. I kick the space heater's primer bulb twice and thumb the igniter. It coughs. It catches. The little blue crown of flame bows to the draft, then stands. I drag Sky inside and peel the jacket back. Her skin is salted with frost where her breath condensed and froze. I ease her onto the cot. The filament at her collarbone dims a shade, then brightens to argue. I pour water, warm not hot, and lift the cup to her mouth. "Small sips," I say. She obeys like she's not used to having the option. Throat works. A tremor rattles the cup. I steady it with one hand, feel the conductivity of that wristband through the glove like a phantom current passing bone deep. The band hums again, but the heater's growl swallows it. "I don't sell people," I say, because it felt like she needed it printed on the wall. Her mouth twitches, not a smile, a misfire where a smile might go. "You sell metal. Metal doesn't beg." "Neither do I," she says softly, and for the first time there's a seam in her voice, the place where something hard meets something already broken. "Not unless the math says it's cheaper than dying." My hands keep moving. I clean a gash along her ribs. The cut is surgical, but the dressing that followed was vicious. Whoever patched her didn't want healing, just delay. I dab iodine. She jerks, and for a split second the air around her fingers turns to static. Light skittering like frost on glass, like a wire just woke up in fog. We both stare at the tiny crackles dying against the heater's glow. She isn't scared of pain. She's scared kindness comes with a receipt. "You're burning up," I say. "If I had antibiotics—" "You don't," she says. She knows my life from the inside after one scan of a room. "You have a heater, a cot, 3 cans of beans, and a rifle you swore you'd never touch. You have stubbornness for dessert. Lucky for you," I say. But my throat is dry. Somewhere in the yard, a buoy bell clanks, soft and out of rhythm. The heater's fan deepens as it warms. I tuck the blanket tighter around her shoulders, and the band on her wrist blinks a faint countersignal like it's arguing ownership of heat. "You should leave me," she says to the wall behind my head, as if talking to me directly would invite a contract. "Give me water. Walk away. You'll get to keep being nobody." "Nobody is hard work," I say. "I'm good at it." She closes her eyes, lashes crusted with frost that's melting now. "They don't erase nobodies, they repurpose them. That's worse." My radiation pen chirps. 4. Then silence. The sound needles my spine. I clip it off. I choose ignorance wrapped in time. It doesn't fit, but I wear it anyway. "Sky," I say. She flinches. "You gave me a name," I continue. "That's a lot." "That's a bunker," she corrects, eyes still closed. "Names are bunkers if you don't look too close." "Who put you down there?" "Owners," she says, and the word comes flat and official. "Or the people who pay them." Or the algorithms they pretend are orders so they don't have to think. You were cargo? Worse, she says, I was an instruction. I don't ask what that means. The heater hums and the wind fusses at the door seam. I spoon water. She takes it. Heat builds in the container until the metal walls stop ringing like their teeth chattering. You have to make a decision, she says eventually, eyes open now, pupils wide enough to drink the room. Help me move before dawn, or put me back where you found me and hope they're merciful. I don't believe in their mercy, I say. Then understand their patience. They own time. They'll wait until you're tired, until you run out of coffee and courage. Then they'll take both. I set the cup down and look at my hands. My nails are black crescents. The scar across my palm from a hatch cover in Kandahar looks like a half smile that stopped trying. I glance at the rifle case in the corner. Old ghosts rustle inside it like moths. You said erase, I say. What does that mean to them? It means no records, no residue. It means the cameras turn to lakes and the microphones turn to wind. It means the neighbors swear you moved last summer. It means your name goes soft in your own mouth when you try to say it. The heater pops. The water hisses as the metal contracts. I feel the old instinct give me its hand. It isn't a friend. It's a tool that looks like one. Okay, I say. Then we don't give them dawn. She looks at me like I'm a new kind of error. You're choosing before you know the math. I know enough, I say. You were chained in my yard. That makes me yours, she says, testing me with the cruelty of someone raised in a market. That makes you human, I answer, because saying it out loud declares a jurisdiction I can live with. She exhales. Something unclenches and tightens all at once. Her eyes flick to the door, the heater, my hands, the way a person scans for exits and prices at the same time. The filament in her chest answers her pulse with a stubborn green. Ethan, she says, tasting my name like she's mapping it for weaknesses. If they find me here, they'll erase you with me. Then they'll have to find us, I say. And they won't, not tonight. I pull the cot toward the inner wall, rig a thermal blanket behind it to kill our heat signature at the seam. I wedge the door with scrap so it looks locked but gives under a pull. I pour more water and slide a dented tin of peaches across the floor because sugar pays debts the body keeps in secret. She eats 3 slices like she's stealing from herself and pushes the rest back. The wind rises, the cranes creak. Somewhere a buoy bell answers in that same wrong rhythm. The yard settles into the kind of quiet only the hunted hear. I thumb the light off. The heater glows like an ember in a steel throat. In the dark, Sky's voice finds me. You made your choice fast. Sometimes fast is the only clean we get. And if you're wrong, then I'll be wrong the way I decided to be. The radiation pen banished to my pocket ticks once like a metronome tapping the edge of a prayer. I let the sound slide off me. This isn't a ransom, isn't an accident. It's an execution someone started and planned to finish after coffee. I sit with my back to the door, rifle case unlatched by my boot, and listen to her breathing roughen into sleep. The heater hums. The lake gnashes its gray teeth against the shore. I count screws on the workbench because numbers are a fence I can build in the dark. Out there, they probably believe men like me will hear a knock, feel the crawl of it in our bones, and keep walking. I carry Sky anyway, and I keep carrying her even now the way you carry a vow, awkward, heavy, necessary, into whatever comes next before the light finds us. The heater grumbles like an old dog that still knows its job. Diesel breath, blue crown of flame. The container walls hiss as frost surrenders drop by reluctant drop. I set the dented kettle near the grate, slide a thermos mug under it. Steam lifts like a flag that refuses to pick a side. Sky lies on the cot beneath my patch thermal, eyes half closed, watching the ceiling seem as if it might decide our fate. Her lips are the color of lost things. The glowing filament under her collarbone has calmed from a strobe to a pulse. I can feel it from where I sit, like a bass line inside the room inside me. Water, I say, and make it gentle. I edge the cup to her mouth. Slow. She obeys like it's an order she can afford. Sips, breathes, sips again. The cup rattles against her teeth until my hand learns her tremor and rides it. Up close, the damage stops pretending. The burns aren't burns. They're cuts that someone taught fire to draw. Lines at regular intervals like graph paper laid on skin. Some cross-hatched, others a ladder, one a ring around her arm where the wristband stops. Whoever did it knew the path between data and flesh, and treated both as if they could be mined. Her gaze flicks not to my face but to the wall behind me where I taped a calendar I stopped changing 3 months ago. March still threatens snow as if it didn't already win. She measures the room the way people measure debt. Bench, tools, coil of copper, the cracked phone I keep for music, the rifle case I keep closed. What day is it? She asks. Tuesday, I say. Or who knows? Lake makes time lie. She swallows. They don't. Drink, I say. She drinks and watches my hands. People trust hands before they trust words. Mine are dry, scar-mapped, steady now that they're busy. I clean a gash along her ribs with iodine and strips of old t-shirt. When the antiseptic hits, she flinches, and for a split second the air around her fingers wakes. Static gathers like dust in sunlight. Threads of cold fire crawl knuckle to knuckle, bright and gone. The hair on my forearms lifts. The heater coughs as if something tugged its breath. You okay? I ask. Yes, she says. It sounds like she borrowed the syllable from a language that doesn't do comfort. No. Her eyes glass, then reset. Don't. She almost says, don't be kind. She changes tracks. Don't touch the band. I won't, I say, and mean it right up until I have to break the promise to save her life. I set the strip. Press. She doesn't scream. She lets the pain pass through like it's a message she doesn't plan to answer. The radiation pen on my belt chirps. Single note, then two, close together, like a heartbeat tripping. The sound lands right where the filament's glow already sits. My mouth fills with metal. No source here, I tell the room, because truth needs a place to stand even when it's small. No plates, no broken heads, just you and the lake and my bad coffee. Move it away, she says, eyes on the pen like it's a knife. I unclip it and toss it on the bench face down. It still chirps, muffled. She exhales. The filament dims a breath. Name, I say, because the way she holds her jaw says talking about anything else will break her. Sky, right? Silence. Then, it's the one I'm allowed. Allowed by who? The question banks off her like wind off steel. I don't push. She sets her own pace or she doesn't run at all. I'm Ethan, I offer again like a second coat of paint. Ethan Cole. She looks at the calendar again to where March never turned into April. Her eyes track left, right, like she's running a simulation against the wall. Finally, she says, I had a different name. It doesn't open the doors it used to. You can keep it, I say. That's not how keeping works, she says, soft and savage. I tear a blanket in half to make a sling for her shoulder because the way she holds herself tells me that joint tried to climb out of its own socket. When I lift her arm, the wristband hums against my skin through the glove, a note I can feel in my teeth. Not loud, not showy, certain. What is it? I ask, not trusting the word bracelet. Leash, she says. I nod as if I've handled 1,000 leashes that look like mat tech and language. I knot the sling. The cloth over the band warms fast. Some devices demand to be acknowledged. I pretend I don't hear it. You're running hot, I say. Fever's doing laps. It keeps them from seeing, she says, and for a second there's a half smile that isn't about joy. Heat noise. Static. I can't do it for long. Biology gets a vote. Outside, the yard mutters. A buoy bell clanks from somewhere along the breakwater. In the distance, thin as thread, the electric whine of a commuter loop gliding over Cleveland proper, ghosting along the repurposed rail lines. New city spine, new hunger. Drone lanes over the lake blink faint as winter stars, green to red to green as cargo hives pass like floating warehouses with opinions. The heater settles into a steady purr. I pour more water, add a sliver of ration honey I trade for copper. She watches the trickle like it's a magic she doesn't believe in. I don't sell people, I say, because we left that sentence in the pit and I want it here too. She turns her head enough to see my face. You sell metal. Metal doesn't beg. Neither do I, she says, and her mouth quivers on the after of it. Not unless the math says it's cheaper than dying. Good math, I say. Terrible life. Most lives are math someone else already did. I find gauze in a zip bag with a date on it old enough to get nostalgic. I start rapping. She holds still in the way of someone who's learned the trick of not fighting pain, that it wraps tighter when you thrash. How long were you down there? I ask. Long, she swallows. They come back between freezes, check for breath, replace chains if the metal lies. I think of the new padlock against the old stain. They wanted time to do the killing. They want it to feel organic, she says, so no one files a complaint in the right jurisdiction. You talk like a grant request. Do I? She blinks slowly. That's where I lived. I tape the gauze. Her breath skates over my knuckles. Warm, human. The filament hums at the edge of notice like a taunt. I reach for the gash at her hip and my glove grazes the band. Heat pops my skin like I touched a kettle seam. I yank back. The band doesn't glow. It absorbs the gesture instead like a stone takes light. The filament under her collarbone brightens 3 degrees and then returns to baseline. Sorry, I say. Don't apologize, she says, voice flat as a readout. Just don't do it again. I keep working. She keeps watching the ceiling seam. The heater whispers things only metal believes. You're not scared of pain, I say. I'm scared of invoices. Kindness with a receipt, I say. She nods once. It starts with blankets, water. It ends with a price tag I can't lift. You can pay me by not dying, I say. I'm simple. No, she answers and her eyes sharpen. You're tired. That's different. She's not wrong. Tired is why the heater's missing 1 screw. Tired is why March still hangs there. Tired is why the rifle case is both closed and not. The kettle surrenders its steam. I make tea that's just heat in disguise and squeeze a lemon packet over it, the kind made of ultrasound and regret. I offer. She refuses with a small shake. I drink it myself to prove I don't rat poison strangers. The radiation pen chirps again, uglier for having been ignored. 4 notes. Pause. 2. The pattern stutters. The room leans. What does that measure? She asks. Trouble, I say, in the kind of units that get you new teeth. Good, she says, and it sounds like gallows approval. Then I'm still here. You want to tell me what you are? I ask and keep my voice empty of fear, full of space. Hungry, she says. I open the locker where I keep food for when I get lucky enough to need it. Beans, peaches, a slab of bread whose best buy died a quiet death last week. I spread nut paste with a pocket knife, hand it over. She eats like she's negotiating, mapping the future cost of each chew. Halfway through the slice, she stops and stares at the door. Not the handle, the seam, as if the air itself got interesting. What? I whisper. Listening, she says. I stand, kill the heater fan despite the cold and the sudden quiet rings. Outside, the wind noodles around crane bones. The buoy bell kisses its own rust. The city far off coughs. Inside, there's a thin sound at the edge of hearing, like sugar being poured in another room. I flick my dead phone to airplane mode out of reflex learned in another life. I pull the battery. I wrap both in foil because paranoia is cheaper than funerals. Sky watches with a look that could be gratitude or audit. It's not microphones, she says, not exactly. What is it? Interest, she says. Interest learns shapes. I don't like the way she says learns. I like the way she keeps breathing. Talk to me, I say, and I make it as soft as a held breath. What do you need right now? Temperature, she says, and a promise you won't trade me for better valves or a clean name. I told you, I say. People tell me many things, she murmurs. Then they open their hands and count. I sit back down where she can see my fingers. I keep them flat on my knee, palms heavy, nails black with work. I don't sell people, I don't trade them. I've done things I hate, but not that. The filament eases a shade. Her shoulders loosen like a knot checked by a sailor. The room exhales. Okay, she says, and the word doesn't mean trust. It means a truce small enough to fit on the head of a pin. The storm hatch moans as the wind shifts. Somewhere behind the container, ice rubs the cut pilings and complains. I reset the heater to low so it doesn't punch our signature through the seam. I tuck the thermal edge so it hides the glow. She finishes the bread and the band flashes a numb inward pulse. Not to me, to itself. A self-check, a hello to whatever language lives in its metal. Sky, I say, and the name skitters between us again like a coin no one wants to claim. If you can't sleep, that's fine. If you can, it's better. I'll sleep when your math catches up, she says, the faintest bite of black humor under the wreckage. Until then, tell me something true. True? I look at the lake wall, at March, at the rifle case that hums with old ghosts. I left a place with sand and noise and came home to a place with snow and silence, and neither one wanted me. She watches me for the length of 2 heartbeats. Then don't make a home out of me to fix that. That wasn't the plan. Plans are fictions, we tell the future, she says, and the line sounds rehearsed like something a trainer wrote on a whiteboard for a room full of people who signed things. Who trained you? She closes her eyes. Blanket, water, then questions, then receipts. You promised. I nod and tuck the thermal up to her jaw. She leans into the heat like gravity changed its mind. The pen on the bench chirps once more and dies into a long, thin tone that might be a fault or might be an answer. My teeth ache. If they find me here, Sky whispers, half asleep and fully afraid, they'll erase you with me. I look at the door, the heater, the rifle case, the calendar where March refuses to turn. I look at my hands. I let the fear in and give it a chair so it stops banging on the door. Let them try, I say. She doesn't smile. She doesn't need to. The filament throbs once like a lighthouse no one charted, and then the room goes quiet except for the heater's old prayer and the lake chewing on the dark. Before dawn decides which side it's on, the lake turns the color of old coins and holds its breath. The heater clicks low. Sky's fever settles enough that her shivers look rehearsed instead of mortal. I sit with my back to the door, counting the seconds between buoy bells like I can barter with time if I have enough of them stacked. Then thin light slides across the seam of the container door. Not the soft smear of a street lamp, not the nervous skip of a night fisherman. This beam is the kind that knows its own shape, tight, surgical, intent moving at the speed of money. I don't breathe. Sky doesn't either. Even her filament pauses, a green pulse arrested mid-beat. The light skates away. Another joins it from the opposite angle, two knives crossing in a whisper. The wind holds still, listening. Somewhere out on the ice, tires ease and crunch, like something rehearsed driving where it shouldn't be able to. "Don't move," I mouth. Sky's eyes open and find me. Her lips are a pale blue line. The band on her wrist lies quiet, the way a coiled cable looks like a sleeping snake. A third beam travels slow over the door seam, finds the padlock I hung like theater, tiptoes past it. It's not searching, not really. It's confirming geometry. The diesel heater's fan rattles one last time and gives up. The silence after is abrupt enough to feel like a vacuum. My breath fogs and vanishes. I roll to my knees and crack the rifle case. The smell of oiled steel is immediate and old as a confession. I swore I'd never open it again. That promise feels like a jacket a size too small, sleeves straining, buttons ready to pop. Sky lifts her head. "Don't," she whispers, "please don't show it the same story." "Different ending," I say. Outside, motors idle without a heartbeat. Two silhouettes move past the gaps between stacked prop housings. No visible patches, no glint of badges, jackets a civilian gray that means business where laws outsource their teeth. Their footsteps are educated, heel, toe, toe, heel, in rhythms that lie to microphones. A drone hums overhead, not a cheap quad. I've seen those drunk dive at fireworks. This one floats steady, patient. It doesn't scan. It listens. There's a thin pressure in my sinuses like altitude. The kind of mesh net sniffers corporations pretended never left lab benches. The kind you rent by the hour inside an encrypted calendar invite that calls itself logistics. Sky's fingers curl until the knuckles go white. Her eyes unfocus as if she's listening through her skin. "It's mapping," she whispers. "Not the space, the silence." Meaning? Meaning it knows what should be talking. Phones, meters, comms. It's subtracting noise and looking for the hole that looks like people. I power down the portable inverter, pull the breaker on my light string, yank the battery from the radio I use to lull the nights. The container grows even darker, the heater a metal moon without glow. The drone's hum leans closer. Then it goes still, directly above as if squatting to listen to the absence we've made. "We can't stay," I murmur. Sky follows the ceiling with her eyes, then looks back at me. "You don't have to do this," she says. "I was wrong to come up from the pit. I should have crawled to the lake and let the ice decide. If I walk away now," I whisper, fitting the bolt, chamber checking by touch, "I become the guy I was over there. I'm done being him." "Ethan," she says, my name like a temperature test. "It's not war." "It is," I say. "They just replaced the flags with invoices." We move. I wedge a slab of scrap under the door to delay entry by seconds, which is the currency I understand. I sling a small pack, water, gauze, a flare I keep for romantic ideas like signaling help. I help Sky stand. Her knees fold. I catch her under the arms and the band kisses my glove with a heat that wants to be recognized. She nods once, jaw clenched, and we shuffle toward the back hatch. A panel I cut months ago for airflow and hope. Beyond it, a narrow lane between scrap mountains leads to the storm drain grating. The tunnel beneath runs under the old rail bed and out toward the culvert near the breakwater. Rats, ice, and unkept civic promises live there. So do people like us when we have to. I slide the hatch. The cold comes in with teeth. From the shadows near the cranes, two figures break off and begin a slow walk toward our row. Not careless, not urgent. The kind of pace that says they think they own the end of this sentence. One touches a finger to his ear. The other doesn't. The drone above us shifts half a meter and releases a breath I feel in my fillings. Sky grimaces. The filament under her collarbone flares and dims as if arguing with something I can't hear. Can you run? I ask. I can move, she says. Running is a denomination I don't carry. We go anyway. The lane is a throat lined with rusted propellers and the ribs of ships never finished. Wind drops grit that tastes like pennies. A loader bot 3 yards away wakes from frozen sleep, ultra slow on winter mode, its orange HUD struggling. Someone else must have told it to watch this sector. It turns its head toward us and freezes, optics fogging like it wants to help but remembers it belongs to whoever paid for its firmware. Shh, I tell the machine and hate that I mean it. We reach the grate. It's a rectangle set into the concrete, bolted down with 4 fat anchor screws. I already loosened 2 months back when I was imagining escape routes for events I didn't have the courage to say out loud. I squat, wrench in hand, and twist. The steel screams. Sky flinches. Footsteps accelerate behind us, still controlled, still patient, like the decision to hurry belongs to them. The drone above emits a subsonic cough. In response, a second hum approaches from over the lake. Another lens, another ear. Lines of narrow light comb the ice beyond the yard's fence, crisp and emotionless. 2 black vans slide onto the frozen shallows like sharks testing a new coastline. No plates, no snow kicked up, studded tires whispering. Ethan, Sky says, leave me. I wrench the second anchor. It gives. I slam the grate back. A cough of damp air rises, cold and metallic, smelling of algae and old storms. I drop the pack into the dark and help Sky lower herself over the lip, her hands white-knuckled on the edges. The band hums like a live wire trying not to arc. Bootsteps. 2 shadows at the end of the lane, a third behind them carrying something longer than a baton, shorter than mercy. I raise the rifle. They stop, not from fear, from confirmation. We don't want you, the front one calls. No echo, just clarity. His voice is pleasant the way an elevator's is. We want the asset. Sky freezes halfway down the ladder. The word lands on her like a barcode. She's not an asset, I say, and that sentence feels like a manifesto even if I whisper it. You're trespassing on a lawful recovery, he says, and I can hear the trademark symbol suspended after each word. Stand aside and keep your life. I keep my life by choosing it, I say. The second figure tilts his head just enough to consult the silence. Overhead, the drone drifts. It still doesn't scan. It listens. I fire once, not to hit, to shatter the ice of our moment. The bullet cracks a forklift's side mirror, sprays glitter into the air. The loader bot flinches and apologizes with a single orange blink. The men don't flinch. They just change formation the way water does. Time's up, the front one says mildly, as if we booked a meeting and our slot is over. I step onto the ladder behind Sky and push her down. Her boots find rungs. The dark swallows her. A drone's light knifes into the lane, white and perfect. I squeeze off a second shot high to erase the lamp behind it. Darkness falls like a curtain. The rifles come up. The van doors kiss open across the yard, quiet as breath. I drop into the tunnel and pull the grate closed over my head. A baton cracks the steel from above, sparks falling like hot bees. Bolts a hair from ripping. My shoulders burn as I slide the locking bar across inside. A second crack dents the metal. A third bruise buckles it. Move, I tell Sky. She's already moving, hunched, one hand on the slimy wall, the other clamped over her ribs. The tunnel's water is a black ribbon, ankle-deep and carnivorous with cold. Algae slicks the bricks. My rifle's barrel knocks wet stone. The sound is huge. I wince. She does too. Above, men fan out. The drone lowers, listening for us through concrete, following not our bodies but the shape of the hole we make in the network, the way a river follows a missing rock. We can't outrun them, Sky says. We don't have to, I say. We just have to undo their assumptions. What assumptions? That we're predictable. We wade. Rats sound like rain galloping. The tunnel forks. Left is shorter but floods. Right is longer but breathes. I pick right. Sky stumbles. I catch her and the band sears through the glove like a reprimand. She bites back a sound. The filament in her chest flickers once, twice, then steadies. What does the drone do with silence? I ask, if only to keep her conscious. It triangulates the absence between the things it leases, she says, words clipped by effort. Your meter, your heater's chip, the camera's city leased to a company that promised to love them forever. Anything that should sing. You cut the choir. We're the wrong note. How do we become a right one? Make noise like money, she says, and there's a break in the tone, a stray ember of humor. Or break everything so the noise is honest. Behind us, the grate warps and gives. Footsteps hit the ladder. The tunnel inhales new air that smells like gloves and gun oil. We hit a low seam where the ceiling drops to shoulder height. I shove Sky through and go prone after her, rifle dragging. My heart knocks a tattoo that doesn't match the buoy bells or the old war drums. I breathe through tightening ribs. A splash behind us. They're in. The drone stays above because it doesn't need to wet its feet to do its job. It coughs again, subsonic, handing us to the men like a pen sliding a contract across a table. Left, Sky whispers, palm against brick, feeling a seam. There's a maintenance cavity. It was sealed. It shouldn't be anymore. How do you know? I helped write the plans for their silence, she says, and self-loathing trips her breath. I know where the seams live. We slide through a break in mortar into a tunnel smaller than a lie. Pipes moan. Rust flakes into our hair. The cold here is more honest. Earth cold, not corporate. My shoulders scrape. Her sling snags. She yanks it free and hiss-laughs at the pain like it owed her money. Boots and water behind us, measured and unmarred by panic. They're trained to treat tunnels like conversations. Keep your voice low, keep it even, keep it ending where you want. The cavity spits us into a brick throat that rises. A ladder bled orange with rust climbs to a circular hatch stamped with the ghost of city letters. I shove Sky up. She climbs with the dignity of a person who refuses to let humiliation be the last line. I follow. At the hatch, she presses her palm to the metal. The band on her wrist goes from dead to interested. The filament at her collarbone flares in answer. No, I say. Don't. She doesn't. She only listens to the lock with her skin. Her breath fogs. The hatch asks a question in a language I can't hear and then forgets that it did. The wheel gives under my hands with a cry like a gull that saw too much. We push into a storm vault under the pier. The lake is a dark all its own through the slatted outflow. Dawn is bleeding along the horizon like someone cut the sky to drain it. Through the grate, I see the vans on the ice repositioning with the joke of grace. The drones hover like saints in paintings I don't pray to. Sky turns to me. She's pale and sweating and electric. Ethan, she says, steady now in the way a cliff is steady. If we keep going straight, they'll box us at the breakwater. Your tunnel buys us 5 minutes, maybe 6. They needed to hear me here, they did. Then we make the 6 count, I say. Her jaw locks. They'll erase you with me. They'll try, I say. But they'll have to catch the version of me that doesn't sell people. He runs colder. He runs angry. Somewhere in the tunnel behind us, a man clears his throat as if about to speak. The drone above the pier leans and listens. Head for the culvert, I add. Then the utility trench that runs under the ferry road. After that, the rail bed. After that, the city. Noise. Sky nods. Not because she agrees with my strategy, but because she sees no other that doesn't cost me alone. We drop back into the dark. Behind us, water folds around presences that don't belong to it. Ahead, the tunnel shoulders the cold and keeps its secrets 2 turns longer than it should. And inside me, something unlatches with a sound only I can hear. The tunnel breathes cold into our mouths like the lake is trying to live through us. We slog the last bend, water gnawing ankles, bricks sweating, our breaths turning into ghosts that choose the ceiling. Sky keeps moving by math and rage, her shoulders strapped, her lips align the cold can't pry open. The filament at her collarbone glows a stubborn green, an artery of light fed by fear and something older. We reach the culvert mouth under the pier. Night is thinning. Dawn hasn't committed. Fog pours off the lake in long muslin sheets, dragging along the pylons with soft, wet hands. Beyond the slatted grate, ice fields grind at the breakwater, slow and vicious. The city is a frayed necklace of orange sodium and smart white billboard halo, too far to forgive us, close enough to sell us. I shoulder the grate and heave. Metal protests like I'm teaching it a new religion. It opens. Wind slaps us with brine and iron. We crawl into air that tastes like old coins and fresh batteries. 2 vans idle on the ice 50 yards out, black and patient. Their headlights slice the fog into obedient columns. Above them, the first drone hangs like a silver burr at the edge of a wound. Another drifts into view, twin to the first, its rotors purring in a band of sound that doesn't touch the ground. The van's doors iris open. Gray jackets spill like sentences concluding themselves. Move, I say. We sprint crawl along the underside of the pier, boots skidding on slick concrete, hands slapping the frozen growth that crusts the edges. The fog gives us inches, then takes them back. Behind us, the grate we pushed aside clanks against brick and rings out our guilt. A quadcopter peels from the vans and rises to a height human eyes mistake for mercy. It tilts, targets, and coughs a pulse. The world blinks, not light, absence. The kind of pulse that tells metal to forget it ever loved electricity. The pier lamps die. The loader bot in the yard goes to its knees like it's praying. My rifle's smart sight burps a final green dot and becomes a blind circle. The heater back in my container, if it still had fuel, would have coughed itself to death. The little tracker in my boot that used to make me feel safe goes quiet. Even the drone has the courtesy to wobble as its own brain sneezes, then rights itself on backup like a man who already signed a DNR. The fog wallows fat and muffled. The lake slaps once, loud as a hand. Somewhere far off, the commuter loop coasts through its own dying hum and keeps going because redundancy is what cities call faith. Sky stumbles and catches herself. Static crawls over her fingers, rime-white sparks that skitter from knuckle to air like frost with intentions. The band on her wrist drinks the pulse and answers with a pulse of its own, small and private, a heartbeat that doesn't report to ours. The men in gray don't hurry. They spread along the ice with shielded steps and carry tools with careful ends. One holds a baton fat with coils, the color of unkindness. Another shoulders something that's not quite a rifle and not quite a lie. The closest tilts his chin and speaks into the fog like it has an appointment. Asset is moving along pier underside, heading east. Deny egress at Ferry Road. Sky hears it and goes pale enough to turn the fog jealous. They can hear where we make the water stop, she says. They hear our shape. I switch to what always worked when nothing else did. Left, I say. Over the rocks. Then we take the storm ladder and go topside. Topside is line of sight, she says. So is dying down here. We knife left. I haul Sky over the breakwater's first boulder, slick with old algae and new ice. She bites her lip and the sound she makes is private. I try to ignore the way my hands feel her bones like the blueprint of regret. The second pulse hits. The skin on my forearms prickles. My scars itch. The deep ones. The ones a medic stapled shut while sand tried to fill them back in. My mouth tastes like struck quarters in apology. The rifle's ejection port is a blank stare. My head hums, just slightly out of tune with itself. Sky inhales short and sharp as if she swallowed glass. The filament under her skin brightens. One of the drones twitches in midair as if someone pinched its invisible throat. Keep your head down, I say. We reach the storm ladder, iron rungs bolted into concrete that remembers kinder winters. Sky reaches for the first rung and misses. Her hand leaves a streak of static where metal should be. She tries again, slower, and catches. The band kisses the rung and clicks, an intimacy between old iron and new logic that makes my molars hurt. I climb behind her, shielding her with my shoulders, rifle slung dead. The ladder rattles in a rhythm that feels like a countdown. My breath saws in my chest. The wind tries to steal every inhale and return it used. Above, the pier deck appears, frosted with the spent breath of a lake that doesn't know it's owned. We roll onto the boards and the fog is right there. A cheap curtain you still step behind because the audience agreed to pretend. The men fan out below, half visible, heads tilting. The drones hang at different heights to triangulate our absence. Go, I say. Stay low. We crab run toward the ferry road, that thin thread of municipal hope laid along the waterline. A gull stands on a piling with the baffled dignity of a working professional who arrived at the wrong meeting. A billboard over the service lot cycles through a power-saving loop. Buy local power. Subscribe. The neon tries to ignite, remembers the pulse, and sulks. The vans don't chase us, they glide and place. A third one noses onto the ice at the far end like punctuation. A man on the pier's edge lifts a device that looks like a tuner. He turns it until the air agrees with him. There, he says and points at us without seeing. The fog carries his finger like a rumor. Down, I yell. The first drone spits something that isn't loud so much as specific. A wave slaps the pier and turns into a sheet. The boards tremble. My teeth chatter a beat too late. The rails of the ferry ramp hum like they're becoming a choir. Sky trips. I catch her. The contact burns. The band slides under my palm like a hot coin, and the filament goes from pulse to glare. For an instant, the fog around us halos green, delicate as a promise, fragile as a lie. The nearest drone shudders. Its rotors squeal. The smooth plate of its belly dents inward like an invisible hand pinched it midair. Then the whole thing crumples. No explosion, no smoke, just a collapse, as if it finally admitted gravity existed. It drops into the lake with a soft, offended sound. I blink. My ears roar. The world's sound drops a fraction, as though someone turned the volume down on everything except my own blood. Sky's knees buckle. Her hands fly to her head, nails digging into her scalp. A ragged sob tearing loose like fabric caught on a nail. The band throws off a flurry of micropulses too fast for my skin to count. She sags against me and feels suddenly heavier. Denser. Like the numbers changed while no one was looking. The second drone swivels our way, slow, assessing. It doesn't rush. It's recording. Move, I say, and it comes out a plea. She tries. Her legs answer in syllables instead of sentences. Each step costs a paragraph. The fog clots. The pier boards tick as ice tries to reclaim them. Gray jackets step from the shadows of the service building ahead, ghosts of non-authority made flesh. No patches, no names. Their faces, when the fog parts, are the kind that vanish in crowds even when you know them. One lifts a baton and doesn't hit us with it. He holds it horizontal, humming at a register just under hearing. Sky staggers and turns, eyes unfocusing as if she's tuning a radio with her skull. Her pupils go wide, then needle small. The filament in her chest tightens to a line. The air around her hands crackles, frost smoke coiling up fingers, pooling and lifting, pooling again. Don't, I say, though I don't know why. Because it looks like every time she does it, the bill comes due. She doesn't hear me. Or she hears and declines. The second drone shivers. It lists, corrects, lists harder. One rotor locks, then another. It doesn't fall. It spirals as if twisted between invisible palms. It kisses a piling, carves a neat scar in treated wood, and slides off into the drink in a hiss I feel in my molars. For one hysterical heartbeat, the pier is quiet. Then Sky breaks, not into pieces, into cost. Her whole body folds around a pain too specific for screams. She goes to her knees. She retches soundlessly. The band flares and goes dark, then flares again in a stutter like an exhausted heart. The filament dims to nearly nothing and shivers there, a thread from a sweater someone is pulling in the dark. I drop to grab her, and the gray jackets don't rush us. They stop, certain in the way of people who know the lab sent the memo. One speaks into his collar. Asset is active, not panicked, pleased. He lifts the baton to shoulder height and sweeps it. The fog ripples. The hairs along my forearms are already up. They find a way to rise further. The baton's hum focuses into the wet boards, and my teeth sing back. The metal bolts of the pier glow a little with the attention. Get up, I tell her. Sky, look at me. She does, and what I see in her face terrifies me more than the men. Not fear. Contempt. For herself. Like the weapon and the wound share a mouth. I can't, she whispers. I can't pay this. You don't have to. I hook my arms under hers. Lean. We angle toward the ferry road, toward the utility trench that dreams of being a real tunnel. My boots slip. I swear in 3 languages I only half own. Behind us, the men move at a tempo that says they're done experimenting. The one with the coil baton shifts grip. Another raises a pistol with a muzzle like a camera. The fog blurs their faces, and still I know what they believe. That they can erase without blood. That makes it cleaner at the shareholder meeting. A beam snipes the fog. Heat prickles my cheek. The shot misses, melting a neat crescent in the frost a foot from my ear. A warning drawn with a ruler. I spin, bring the rifle up out of habit instead of sense. The sight is dead. I sight along the barrel the way my father taught me in a field that doesn't exist anymore. I fire once. The recoil is honest. A gray jacket flinches and ducks behind a bollard he already claimed as his. Splinters jump. No scream. No satisfaction. Ethan, Sky says, urgent and thin. What? Listen. I do. The world narrows to 5 sounds. The lake gnawing ice, the vans idling, my heart, the fog hissing along the pier's nailheads, and a new one, a distortion, not silence, its opposite, the sound of silence being strangled. Sky's hands lift, shaking, fingers splayed like she's reading Braille in the air. The filament, nearly gone, throbs once. She speaks through her teeth. I can buy us 5 seconds. How? By defaulting, she says, and the black humor in it nearly undoes me. Do it. She does. It's not light. It's not noise. It's the death of both. A bubble of nothing swells around us, and the pier groans as if entering a pressure change. The van's headlights freeze as if stitched to the fog. The gray jackets' mouths move, but their words don't find us. The hairs on my arms lie down, grateful and confused. My rifle feels like a stick I found in a park. For 5 seconds, the world is a cassette tape paused with a finger. I haul Sky. We run crooked. We make the service lot. We hit the lip of the utility trench and jump, drop, slide, crash among cables humming with whatever the pulse forgot to eat. My knees bite through to bone. Sky lands badly and wheezes a sound I hate. Behind us, the bubble pops. Sound floods back in a rush. The van's engines snarl, betrayed. The men shout a register higher than they wanted to. The fog remembers who pays it. The baton's hum returns like a dental drill. Asset is active, someone repeats into the waking air, and this time there's reverence in it. A investor's grin hiding in a field report. We crawl deeper into the trench, the concrete walls sweating secrets, the cable bundles warm as cats. My ears ring from the decompression. Sky drags, refusing the help she needs the way a proud person refuses oxygen. The trench kinks under the ferry road. A grate above our heads leaks slats of gray. Beyond it, horns argue and a bus sighs as it breaks for a schedule we don't belong to. We move under the city's first errands of mourning like thieves under a market, holding our breath so the coins overhead don't hear us. Sky slows. Her head droops. The band on her wrist flickers a last discordant Morse and sinks toward dark. The filament under her skin is a bruise-colored line, stubborn but failing. "Hey," I say, kneeling, fingers on her cheek to tilt her toward me. "Stay. You hear me? Stay." Her eyes find mine and lose them and find them again. "Asset," she whispers and cracks a smile that doesn't want witnesses. They named the cage right. You're not an asset. Then what am I? Alive, I say, and pull her into the curve of my arm like it's something I can enforce with muscle. That's enough math for today. Steps clatter on the road above. 2 sets, a ripple of radio squawk. The vans purr. The fog thins into drizzle, hissing where it kisses live metal. The trench holds its breath. I look at my useless sight. I look at her burned-in geometry. I look at the city that doesn't know yet it's about to be conscripted into someone else's erasure. "Sky," I say, "can you walk?" "Yes," she says, a crisp lie that wants to be true. "We'll make it true," I answer, and set us moving again, into the warm dark where the power company keeps its secrets. Because for the next hour, our lives depend on learning how to hide inside the hum. The utility trench breathes like a sleeping animal. Warm cables hum beside my head, sweating a metallic heat that fogs the edges of Sky's hair. Somewhere above, a bus announces itself to crosswalks and people who still believe in schedules. Down here, time sloughs off and collects in oily puddles that have never seen a sky. We move in bursts, 10 steps, breathe, 10 more. The math of survival is cheap until you add pain. "Left turn ahead," Sky whispers. "Then a junction chamber. There's a hatch to the drainage tunnel." "How do you—" "Because I did this," she says, and the words come like a confession with a soldered seam. I wrote the quiet that lets them hear us. We reach the junction. Concrete opens to a room the size of a forgotten promise. Knee-deep water loops through sluices. A ladder climbs to a hatch with city stamp ghosts. A maintenance map is bolted to the wall under plexi, bleached by condensation into the memory of itself. I lower Sky to a dry shelf and crouch. Her skin is ash. The filament under her collarbone is a thread trying not to snap. The band on her wrist sits still as a verdict. "Talk to me," I say. "You want truth or tactics?" "Both, in an order you can live through." She licks her lips and stares at the map like it owes her childhood back. There's a platform in orbit, not military. A corporate reef built out of salvage contracts and the parts of the law that forgot to wear a uniform. They called it Hale Station so reporters would spell it right. My name used to be Laura King, mechanical systems engineer, then systems engineer, then systems. The way she says the last word makes the room lean. "Hale was supposed to host the quiet," she continues. "A mesh that makes other meshes go polite. It started as a safety protocol. Then someone found a way to sell the edges. The board wanted a master key that doesn't look like a key. They built it into a person so there's no audit trail, no serial number on a desk. If a human opens a vault, it's just a mistake in training. Who do you fire?" "The witness." "Laura," I say, the name tasting different than Sky, heavier, less aerodynamic. They put it in you. She nods once. We designed an interface that treats the nervous system like a bus. Cheap word for an expensive sin. They tested on animals with good PR, then on volunteers who could afford to sign. I wrote a white paper full of ethics that sounded like railings. The board smiled and penciled in a bridge over them. What you did on the pier, I say. The silence. The gate, she corrects. It isn't a weapon, it's a query. It asks infrastructure a terrible question and makes it forget how to answer. But every ask spends you. And if you spend too much, you default. Hard. The body thinks it's a fuse. My throat tightens and refuses to let the anger out. Who chained you in my dock? Hale's recovery unit, contracted through the Coast Guard's procurement budget so the invoices look patriotic. She tilts her chin toward the ceiling. They carry borrowed uniforms when it's tidy. We both listen. The trench hums like a hive nobody takes honey from. Footsteps above soften, multiply, become a rhythm with choreography. Vans reposition, boots distribute. The city's throat clears with sirens somewhere else, the way you cough when you lie. They tracked me down, she says. I jumped a surface shuttle over Ontario, made it to the yard. I thought the lake's noise would keep them deaf. I forgot I wrote their ears. Why the burn patterns? I ask, though I already hate the answer. Sampling ports, she says, for extraction. They want the interface without the human, but they never risk losing the original while the copies in verify, so they keep both until a donor site is ready. Chaining me in the pit wasn't anger. It was cold storage with plausible deniability. I swallow and it hurts. I never liked the word donor. Now I despise it. Why Sky? I ask. Because Laura King gets invitations, she says. Sky buys bus tickets. I needed to be uninteresting. I look at the band. Can I cut it? You can lose fingers, she says. There are layers. It speaks to the bones first, then it tells the blood which way time should run. I sit back on my heels and try to smother the image of her under a surgical light while an accountant checks the battery on the console. My hands itch for targets, specific and breakable. The trench offers none I can afford. Boots clatter on the road above. A new sound joins them, the heavy feet of people who believe they're the right to be anywhere. Public authority borrowed by private need. I've seen the arrangement wear different coats. It always smells the same. We go now, I say. She tries to stand and can't. I pull her up and the band burns my palm through leather. The filament brightens in protest, then steadies like a soldier at inspection. We wade across the junction to the drainage hatch and climb. The wheel resists like it swore an oath to stay, then breaks its word because it's old and I'm angry. The tunnel beyond is lower, wetter, louder, water shouldering itself along, ice skulking in corners. It leads toward the breakwater culvert, then under the ferry road, then, if the map isn't a liar, into a maintenance run that breathes city air. We go. The noise of the trench hides the noise of us enough to force them to air. I like that math. An orange glow blooms ahead, industrial sodium. We creep to the mouth of a round chamber where 4 tunnels kiss a platform. A ladder climbs to a circular lid cut with 3 neat slits. The slits are new. I don't like how new. Sky breathes in and goes still. Wait. Why? Because this is where the demo happens, she says. Before I can ask, the lid spins. It lifts 3 inches. Light pours in, white and rectified. I shoulder the rifle and sight by feel. A ring of boots appears above, heels on steel. Then a face peers in, a clean, competent face in a Coast Guard cap. My heart trips toward relief like a dog that hasn't learned the difference between truck engines. Then I see the stitch. Inside the beanie's rim, small and neat, an emblem that pretends to be just geometry. The same mark etched along Sky's band. a company logo that learned to behave like a saint's halo. U.S. Coast Guard, the man says, as if those 3 syllables are a hand stamp into heaven. You two okay down there? Everything in me wants to throw him the weight of my trust and climb. Sky's hand closes on my arm. Her nails are ice. She tilts her head a hair. Sleeve, she whispers. I look again. There, stitched inside near the fold, gray thread on gray cloth, a second mark, smaller like the first taught its child how to hide, a language that says, jurisdiction least, morality optional. We're good, I call. Pipe burst. We're clearing. Hold tight, he says with almost care. We'll get you escorted out. Lots of hazards. Another face appears beside his. No nameplate, no rank. Just the kind of smile you use to close a sale. That's them, he says softly, away from the hole to someone the light can't show me. Sky's fingers tremble harder. If they get line of sight, she says, barely voice, I won't outrun the gate if they throw it at me. They'll zero the room and both of us with it. Gate? The opposite of mine. Proprietary silence. You think your heart is a device when it hits you. The lid creaks wider as if curious. I sling the rifle and grab the ladder. When I tell you drop the quiet, I whisper. Drop everything, kill the comms, kill their eyes. I can't. You can, and I'll cover the bill. She nods. Not because she agrees, because there's no other coin to spend. I climb 3 rungs and set the barrel to the underside of the lid. I fire twice. The ring of boots scatters. Shouts ricochet. I drop back and pull Sky to the far tunnel mouth. Now, I say. She raises her hands. Nothing happens. She grimaces like she's arguing with an uncooperative muscle. I need a signal, she says. A handle. What handle? Anything that talks, she says, desperate now. Your watch. A meter. I pull the radiation pen from my pocket and thumb it on. It chirps, delighted to be relevant again. Sky latches onto the sound like it's a rope. She inhales and the filament at her collarbone ignites. The band shudders and goes to work. The air around us thickens, not with fog, but with the decision to be silent. My eardrums try to recede into the past. Above, the Coast Guard caps turn into statues. Radios on shoulders squawk and then forget language. The neat ring of LED lights in the lid stutters, apologizes, dies. Somewhere up on the pier, a van's engine coughs as if it's swallowed wrong. A drone tilts, loses purpose, winds down into a soft, questioning whine. I grab Sky because she is going away while she does this. Her pupils pin. Sweat pours. The filament flickers. She shakes like a transformer forced to sing a note it hates. The lid slams shut from above with a human grunt behind it. Bolts turn. They decide to wait us out with boots and patience. Move, I say. We plunge into the far tunnel. For once, their silence becomes our cover. The city's noise returns in bruised pieces as we put distance between us and the lid. The rush of an early ferry wake, a railing drumming under runners' shoes, a vendor cursing a stuck partition. My world expands to include things I'm willing to love. The tunnel mouths into an outfall beneath the old stone dock where the tourist coin boats nap in summer. Now it's empty except for gulls and the smell of thawed oil. A rusted gate holds on with faith in one bolt. I shoulder it. It goes. We stagger into a maintenance alley fenced with chain link and municipal disappointment. Ahead, beyond a stack of salt bags under a ragged tarp, the city opens like a hand. Brick, neon sputter. A kid on an electric delivery scooter yawning into a scarf while his bag displays a coffee cup logo that lectured me last week about ethical beans. Between us and that life, 3 shapes step out of the fog. Gray jackets minus the gray, polite coats, business casual genocide. Stop, the front one says. The absence of threat in his voice is the threat. His eyes take us in the way a scanner takes a barcode. We'll handle this safely now. Behind me, Sky leans heavier. She's close to default. I can feel the cliff. My body does the arithmetic before my mind. I set her against the salt bags and step forward, rifle low. Back away, I say. We're medical, he says. He shows me an ID that isn't the law and hopes my eyes want it to be. She needs the facility that made her. That facility needs to be fire, I say. He sighs. Mr. Cole, Ethan, you're making this emotional. Be rational. You cannot outrun a corporation, no one does. You can, however, negotiate. We can credit you for your time, for your courage. I don't sell people, I say. You'll sell yourself, he says gently. Everyone does eventually, mortgages, med bills, regrets. We just offer better terms. Sky tries to stand, fails. Then she does something I don't expect. She laughs. It's a small, broken sound that still manages to insult every actuarial table within listening distance. Terms, she says, like the contract you had me sign while I was anesthetized, like the consent form the patch interpreted as make me a device, like the clause that lets you rent the Coast Guard's crest when you need an emblem to kiss. The man's smile tightens. The second moves 2 steps left, creating a triangle, leaving me the math they prefer. The third watches the alley mouth as if doing us a favor. You had status, Laura, the front says, and the way he says her real name is a hand around her throat. You gave it away to play at being people. Come back. We'll put the weight of your choices somewhere you don't have to feel it. Her eyes find mine. In them is a request and a refusal and a question I've spent years trying not to need. Laura, I say. I choose the name she bled for. What do you want? She stares at the men like they're a gravity well. Then she looks at the kid on the scooter beyond them, at the coffee place rolling up a gate, at the lake exhaling behind us like it's relieved we didn't die in it. Her jaw sets. Choice, she says. I want the right to choose, and for that choice to be the wrong one for you. Then choose, I say, and turn to the men. She declines. The front's eyelids droop, the way people do before pressing a button. Last chance, he says. We erase gently, or we erase hard. I step between them and her, and my words drop into a place I once swore I'd keep empty. Try hard. He nods. The second raises a device. A tuned cough hits the alley, their gate, the bad one, the weaponized hush. My ribs seize. The world narrows to a pinhole. The rifle runs away from my hands. My heartbeat tries to pick a new rhythm and fails. Vision warps. The men thin. The salt bags bulge. Sounds smear. And yet, in the eye of that manufactured silence, I feel Sky move. Not toward me. Past me. She steps forward on legs that belong to someone else and raises both hands not like a weapon but like a protest. The filament explodes into a line across her chest that every sensor in a 3-block radius registers as a problem. The band lights every LED it owns. Her face is beautiful in the way cliffs are beautiful when they stop caring if you fall. No, she says to them. Not loud. Final. The air disobeys them. The gate they threw finds a mirror and becomes a box around the 3 of them instead. Their devices cough and choke. Their comms go blind. Their bones remember they're wet and full of electricity. The polite coats jerk, not from pain, from the loss of certainty. The front one looks at his hand like it defected. Run, Sky says to me through her teeth, and then her knees give. I don't. I grab the front man by his polite lapels, headbutt the bridge of his nose with the mean part of my skull, and push him into his friends. The device falls and cracks. I kick it under the tarp with the salt. The third snaps a less polite pistol up. I kick his wrist. The shot goes into brick and winds away. The alley erupts into something analog and necessary. We spill them. We don't kill them. We don't have to. The city supplies an audience. The kid on the scooter shouts and pulls a camera. The coffee gate stops rolling, 2 runners slow. A dock worker in an orange beanie who's seen this before and hated it every time puts his phone up with a union's steadiness. "Call the guard," one of the men gasps through blood. "Which one?" the dock worker asks. Sky sways. I catch her, and this time the band doesn't burn. It's cooling. She is too. Too fast. "Stay," I say. "I chose," she whispers, lips gray. "Hold me to it." I lift her. I look at the men. I look at the cameras. I look at the mark stitched inside the Coast Guard cap in my memory and feel a heat in my chest that isn't wires, isn't hatred. It's a fuse blowing that no one can replace. "Everyone see their faces," I say, loud enough for the alley. "See the logo if they show you one. Remember it when the report says there was nothing to remember." The men stagger away, scrambling toward a story that fits their expense reports. Above us, sirens finally choose our block. I turn, shoulder under Sky's weight, and head for the city's mouth. The trench behind us gurgles like a secret it's tired of keeping. The lake knocks the pier and says, "Breathe." We do.